Hello viewers, welcome back to the Musings of Mavry channel, where I'm your host Mavry, and today we're going to be continuing our series of Tensura. We were on a hiatus last week because due to New Year's, the series stopped its regular programming for 1 week, which worked out nicely for me since I was on vacation at that time and I couldn't make this video anyways. Today also marks the official start of the second cour of the season, which means that we are officially at the halfway point as well. So we have about, 13 more episodes to go on before we reach the conclusion of this season. Last time where we left off, Rimuru and company made a quick work of the orc army. We got to see the badassry of all the Kijin that under Rimuru's command, and we stopped right where Rimuru was about to fight the Orc Lord. The last episode was total badass from everyone. I loved it because it's been so long since we've had a proper fight, and I'm expecting the showdown between Rimuru and the Orc Lord to be epic as well. Although, half of me says that, and the other half of me is thinking maybe he's just gonna do something ridiculous like one-shot the Orc Lord, right? Because since he's so overpowered and he's either gonna one-shot him or he's just gonna eat him or something, and then it would be anticlimactic. Although, to be honest, that would be quite hilarious as well. And since it also showed a little bit of the Demon Lord, I'm wondering if we're going to see some mentions to it this time as well. So maybe get the ball rolling into the main plot of Tensura. So, without further ado, let us jump right into the episode. And we are beginning in 3, 2, 1, play. Yeah. Well, that was anticlimactic. Alright, hold on a second. Let me skip the opening. And here we are. Whoa. Now what are you? Reinforcements? No, it's Crow Guy. Witch Doctor Guy. Or whatever. Done your bidding? So, is Demon Lord a title, or... I mean, it has to be a title. Eat him? Both what he and I desire. You know, you probably shouldn't tell your entire plan to everybody on the field. Hmm? Yeah, as I said, he really commands the respect of his men. They're still calling him Lord? Oh, wait. You went through all the trouble of putting on the mask and then you just take it off? That was a good translation. So who's going to get this attack? Oh, Rimuru. Right. My hunch is getting stronger and stronger that Gibru is gonna join the party. Really? You can't believe he was fooled by him? I think it's pretty obvious. Punch him again. Yeah, nice. Oh, nice. Eat him? Eat him? He's probably gonna eat him. Oh, so that's what he means by the orc disaster. Is he gonna eat Jilmid? I reckon he's gonna eat him. Whack! Nice. Dang, this anime is savage when it wants to be so. And they're just like, no big deal. Just somebody having his lunch. Or dinner. Or midnight snack. What? You evolve to become a demon lord? Okay. So I guess demon lords really aren't that rare or unique. Ooh. Nice. Regeneration? It can't be that easy. Yeah, that would have been way too anticlimactic. That's the second time that old white guy has cut something and not have any effect. And Black Lightning as well. No damage. Okay. Maybe this is gonna turn into a pretty epic fight. Holy sh! Oh man. Like I said, this series really does not fool around when it wants to be serious. What? Oh, he just absorbs it all? Dang. Predator? Auto battle mode? What? Oh, this is badass. What is that flame, though? And he's not regenerating. Oh. Oh man. Is it that easy though? Great Sage. Like, why does he have the Great Sage? I'm so curious. Are you gonna eat him?
俺はお前を敵として認めた。今こそ本気でお前の相手をしてやるよ。
少子、今までは本気でなかったとでも、もはや貴様には何もできぬ。このまま俺に食われるがいい。
お前に食われる前に
Yep.
やるよ。俺はスライムだ。
貴様。
食うのはお前の1000倍特許ねえんだよ。
I was gonna say, probably nobody can eat better than Rimuru.
俺がお前を食うのが先か。相手を食い尽くした方が勝ちだ。
You know, considering he ate Veldora in like half a second.
お前の飢えるものと俺の捕食者とどちらが強いか。勝つのは捕食者。いや、お前が飢えるものなら俺は食らうものだ。
Nice. Oh, so add to the collection of his zoo now?
腹が減ったのか。少し待っていなさい。さあ、食べなさい。しっかり食べて大きくなるのだぞ。王よ、もうおやめください。この大飢饉の中、王であるあなたまで失っては、我ら王国にはもはや絶望しかありません。おととい生まれた子が今朝死んだ。昨日生まれた子は虫の息
Are they trying to make us feel for the villain as well?
再生するのに。これがすでに絶望でなくて何だというのだ。王よ。森に入り食料を探す。しかしジュラの森は暴風竜の加護を受けし場所。その暴風竜は封印されて久しい。少しばかりの恵みを。
Are they?
腹が減った。何でもいい。飯が食いたい。
But he still wrecked the ogre's village, so...
あなたは。
ゲルミュット。俺のことは父と思うがいい。
あの方は教えてくれた。オークロードとなった俺が食えば、飢える者の支配下にある者は死なない。邪悪な企みの駒にされていたようだが、かけるしかなかった。だから俺は食わなければならない。お前が何でも食うスライムだとしても、俺は食われるわけにはいかない。
食い合いは俺に分がある。お前は負ける。
俺は他の魔物を食い荒らした。ゲルミュット様を食った。同胞すら食った。同胞は飢えている。俺は負けるわけにはいかない。
Wow, they really want us to feel for the villain.
弱肉強食。お前は負けたんだ。だからお前は
And he's gonna take over the orc army, right?
負けるわけにはいかない。俺が死んだら同胞が罪を背負う。俺は罪深くともよい。皆が飢えることのないように、俺がこの世の上を引き受けるのだ。
それでもお前は死ぬ。だが安心しろ。俺がお前の罪も全て食ってやるから。
俺の罪を食う。
ああ、お前だけじゃなく、お前の同胞全ての罪も食ってやるよ。
同
欲張りだよ。
It's like a world. I still don't quite get, like, what is the world inside Rimuru?
強欲なものよ。俺の罪を食らうものよ。感謝する。俺の上は今満たされた。
Nice.
確認しました。オークディザスター消失。
Dang, badass.
安らかに眠るがいい。けれど、オークロードが倒されたことにより、飢える者の効果も消滅。多くの信仰はこの時点をもって終了した。
と解放されたのですね。
終わったな。オークロードを撃ち滅ぼしたら自由にしてもらってもいいという約束。
Nah, they're not gonna leave.
ご苦労だった。
リムル様、お願いがございます。
なんだ。
何卒我らの忠誠をお受け取りください。我ら、これからもリムル様にお仕えいたします。
いいのか。
Well, he knows who wears the pants around here.
幸運であります。
私はリムル様の秘書兼護衛ですよ。絶対に離れないからね。
我らの命、果てるまで。
うん。
Oh, new ending. Alright. That was a good episode. Let me see this ending first, and I'll see you guys in a second. Well, that was episode 14, and boy, what a way to kick off the second cour of the season. That was, again, continuing on for the 13th episode, a wonderful episode. It had everything in it. It had humor, it had badass fight scenes, it had background story, it had a little amount of plot into it, and overall, it was animated excellently. It's just well done, it's well executed, so no complaints there. If anything I want to complain about, it was that it was too short, and I wanted more. So, excellent job to them for kicking off this second half of the season on a strong note. Now, in regards to this episode, I have 4 things I want to talk about. So let's just go through them. The first thing is in regards to Gibaru, right? So, as I had been predicting for the last couple of episodes, I do believe Gibaru is here to stay. Is he going to be a companion? Is he going to be just a strong ally? I don't know. But, you know, the anime has kept on hinting that Gibaru is a stupid character, but he's also a loyal character with a lot of redeeming qualities as well. So here we can see that his men are willing to give up their lives for him. You don't get this kind of respect by just being a young douchebag that has power, right? So it's nothing like that. And yeah, okay, fine. So if Rimuru thinks he has redeeming qualities, if he likes him, it is what it is. Probably, if we're going by this, then he'll have some kind of arc later, where if he does eventually join with Rimuru's companions, he'll have some kind of redemption that he can do, right? So, first thing, Gibaru. The second thing I want to talk about is in regards to the villains, right? Well, first of all, Gilmud, right, so, whatever, right? He appeared for like less than 5 minutes before he was killed. I definitely did like, actually, I absolutely liked the fact that Rimuru, punched him, kicked him around a few times, didn't let him finish his sentences. For these kinds of loud, annoying characters, you gotta, whip them around a bit. And to be honest, that's what I was hoping would happen with Giru as well a few episodes back. It didn't happen there, but here I felt satisfied that at least they did something like that. And also, another thing I really like is that this show does not shy away from showing very savage scenes, right? We had some hints of it from the very beginning, when Rimuru killed Ringa's dad, basically. And also a bit later, where within a lot of fight scenes, we see a lot of beheadings. And even here, when the Orc Lord was devouring one of his own people, you saw him just directly eat into him. So actually, I really like that, because even though throughout the series, this anime seems to be taking on a more lighter, more humorous tone, when it wants to turn serious, it turns serious. And I really like this kind of contrast. One of my favorite series of all time, Gintama, also does this to great effect, right? So 1 second it'll have you, laughing your ass off, and then another second you'll be crying your heart out. So I like this kind of anime that can do both sides very well. Also, in regards to the Orc Lord, so it really seems that this series is trying to make us feel compassion for a lot of the different monsters, or a lot of the supposed villains or antagonists, right? So that happened back in the Dwarf Town, and it's happening here as well with the Orc Lord and the orcs. So basically, the story is they had nothing to eat, so they were forced to invade out of desperation. Does it justify their actions? Honestly, to me, I don't think you can really take sides, right? Obviously, because Rimuru is the main character, he's siding with the goblins, so that was that. But if he was instead siding with the orcs, it's hard to say, right? If this was a more serious, more gritty, more realistic kind of setting, then maybe it would have the main character siding with the orcs instead and fighting for resources. So you can't really fault them for that, but as I always say, I never I will never criticize your position or your point. Anybody who has some kind of agenda, that's fine. You can have your own agenda. Just don't be surprised when others decide to bash you over your agenda, right? So if you want to invade to get resources, fine. I don't view it as something dirty or whatnot. It is a valid agenda, but don't be surprised when other people fight back and you're wiped out instead. That's all. So, I guess it's trying to make us feel for the villains. I hope they don't overdo it though, because I would appreciate it sometimes, but if every single villain had some kind of sobbing backstory that we need to listen to, then it gets old real quick, right? So in Gilmud's case, that's one of those stereotypically completely bad guys, right? Although, even saying this, I'm worried that maybe this will turn into sort of a very black and white kind of anime, where the villains are, they're either somebody who you can feel compassion with, like the Orc Lord, or they're going to be someone who have no redeeming qualities at all, such as Gilmud. I feel like this might make it a little too simplistic, but again, it all depends on the tone of the series as a whole. And also, another thing I want to touch upon is, again, related to the Orc Lord. So it actually has to do with the title system or species system. Now, this has been one of my complaints for a long time of this series, where I feel like they're not actually taking the time to properly explain these kinds of mechanisms. Like, I'm a really big mechanism geek. I like to know the world settings. I like to know what kind of system is in play. Like, what is the attribute system? What is the title system? And so on and so forth. And so, because within this episode, we see that the Orc Lord evolved into a Demon Lord. So I thought this was getting way too ridiculous, and I decided to just say screw it and go look up the wiki as to what the whole title system is about. And so I'm going to share some of my findings here. I don't think because I don't really know if it's explained later down the line, either within the light novel or the anime, so I'm going to treat it as a spoiler. Although I did my best to avoid any story-wise spoilers. Now, if any of you don't want to hear about this, I guess, spoiler finger, I'm gonna steal from one of the podcasts I watch. So when this finger is held up, the things I'm going to say are going to be spoilers. So you can stop watching right now and skip to until I lower my finger. So the title system in this series actually is kind of convoluted. At least that's what I can gather from the wiki. So the author seems to have a bad habit of interchanging titles with species. So sometimes when something should be a species, or sometimes when something should be a title, later on would turn on into something vice versa. Like for instance, something like Orc King or Orc Lord, right? So you would think that this is something that should be a title, but no, it's actually a evolution of a species, of a race, right? And that it gets even more annoying for things like Demon Lord, which are used in both kinds of situations. It can be a title and it can be a race or species at the same time. So I guess what we can really learn from this is, oh, and also because since we are on the topic of Gilmud anyways, I also looked up like what exactly an orc disaster is. Common sense would dictate that that is a title, right? An orc disaster doesn't sound like a species or a race, but apparently it is. It's the next evolution of a orc king or orc lord. So, it doesn't really make sense. And I'm guessing that this is just because the author got lazy or he didn't really think this out properly in his mind at first. And so he started to get mixed up himself and confused things with one another. I can't fault him for that because it's actually really hard to think of all these kinds of world settings and in a consistent manner, especially since a lot of web novels are written ad hoc, right? So they just have an idea and they just go with it, and they don't really, at least a lot of the web novel authors don't really have a complete world setting or world system in their mind at first, because it's to be expected, right? They're amateurs and they're just one person, so it's hard to make everything completely make sense. But anyways, that's what I'm gathering so far from the wiki. And again, if you are a bit more knowledgeable about this, please let me know if I'm saying anything wrong, but that's what I gather here. So basically, we can just say that there does exist titles, there does exist races, but everything might have an exception or something which doesn't really make logical sense, so you just have to look it up as you go. So I guess that's what the conclusion to this is. Right. So, in any case, since Rimuru defeated Gilmud, right, I'm kind of wondering, does that make him... No, that makes him even stronger than a Demon Lord, right? So, does that mean that he is a Demon Lord now? If we're looking at it as a species, then, and as a race that you can evolve into, then I assume that most monsters, or any monster, would be able to eventually advance to that level, right? Or if it's a title system, then, again, I'm not sure about this setting, but a lot of different light novels have a system where if you defeat the Demon Lord, then you become a Demon Lord yourself. Although this one is a little bit special since there are apparently multiple Demon Lords. But then that would just make more sense where if you defeat one, then you can gain its title, right? So I guess that's something to look out for in the future. And the final point I want to make is, I guess, more of a little prediction or theory crafting or theory I have about this series in general. So that is actually relate to Rimuru's abilities. Now, I'm not going to go over everything he used within this fight, and nothing really special happened, and we know most of his abilities already. It was just a good fight, a good use of his different kinds of his abilities. I had a hunch that it would probably end with Predator, and that's what happened, so it is what it is. But the thing that I'm really interested in is the Great Sage, and the auto battle system, right? So, this series, from the very beginning, from the very first episode, had some feel of gamification to it, right? If we compare it to another series that's ongoing right now, which I'm also reviewing right now, which is Shield Hero, that one has a very explicit gamification system, right? So you get the game menus within the anime, within the series as a whole, and that's something that the main character can interact with. I kept thinking that there was hints of this within this series as well, because when we see Rimuru do his, I guess, skill level ups, or when he was getting a lot of different resistance and stuff, text flew out, right? So I'm wondering if, first of all, if this is actually also something that has a gamification system as well, and secondly, whether or not this maybe relate to a bigger story overall, right? So, if going back to my first episode, when you're talking about Isekai series, if it's not a situation where the main character was deliberately summoned by someone from this new world, something that you always need to take note of is there some kind of deity or some kind of being that's behind the reincarnation or the Isekai reincarnation or transfer system, basically. Like, is there somebody calling the shots or pulling the strings to bring other people into this world? And it got me thinking again whether this is the case. Like, are they going to touch on this at all? And especially in terms of the Great Sage, because I've read a lot of web novels, so there's lots of common tropes that are used here and throughout. And one of the tropes is, the voice inside your head eventually turning out to be actually a big character who is an integral part of the story, and in fact, maybe relating to something of a higher power. So typically this would go in with gods and deities and stuff like that. And in regards to Great Mage, even though I just mentioned that it sort of seemed like a gamification system, right? It has auto combat, but I don't know. I feel like it seemed to have a conscience of its own, right? We see that when it sort of has a humor to it when with its interaction with Rimuru, and also in this particular episode when Rimuru told the Great Sage to stop its attack, and he was going to take over. The response from Great Sage led me to think that it kind of felt disappointed in a way, or flustered. So it probably has its independent conscious. Again, this is just pure theory crafting, right? I'm basing this on some other web novels I've seen who utilize a similar concept. Again, Tensura is a pretty early light novel, came out in 2013 or something, so I'm not sure if at that time there was any... No, actually, thinking about that. No, actually at that time there was already a lot of series that use a similar concept, so that's something that I'm wondering as well, whether eventually we're going to explore this kind of concept within Tensura. So, that was just a quick theory I had. I have no idea if that's true or not, and honestly, I don't really want to know if it's true or not right now, but I just thought it would be something to think about and maybe observe in the future episodes. So, that about concludes my review of this episode. Again, great start to the second cour. Definitely, this is going to be having some fierce competition between this series and Shield Hero as well. They're both isekais, they both deal with fantasy. One is a little bit more serious, I guess you could say, than the other, but both are AAA titles, which means that they have a lot of budget and production value behind them. They're animated and voice acted properly. And you know, if you're an Isekai fan, if you're a fantasy fan, then you must be loving this season right now. So, in any case, this has been Mavry from Musings of Mavry. You have been watching Tensura episode 14, and I'll see you guys next time.